Hey, welcome to Let's Talk Too. And we just gonna have a little quick myself and a good friend of mine, Dwayne. For those of you guys that are new to him, he's a good friend of mine. Um, we've been friends since the sixth grade, and he has some expertise on the subject. I believe that I think is interesting. That's in the news, and it's a situation with Michael Oher and they pronounce their last name the Tuohy, right?
Yeah, their last name is Tuohy.
Yeah, the Tuohy family down in down there, and everybody knows who Michael Oher was. They made a movie, The Blind Side, about him, where Sandra Bullock played the mother, and she actually won an Oscar for it. And on Monday, Michael Oher filed a petition and said that the family never adopted him. They got a conservativeship, um, and he always, just to give people a little background, he always had a problem with the way that he was depicted in the movie. So that was nothing new. My friend Dwayne here, my brother, he has, I believe, some real experience with dealing with what we may consider as older people amateur athletes. But Dwayne could give you some insight where there really is no such thing as amateurism. You know, so what's up, Wayne?
Not much, man. This is a hot topic. Everybody's been talking about it since yesterday. It's interesting. I can see both sides of it. I can see the people that saying these people took advantage of this naive kid. Um, I can see where they're saying they didn't need to take advantage of it. As far as from a monetary standpoint,
Dwayne,
people.
give the audience some background on the Tui family if they haven't Googled it already.
Well, the Tuohy, the father, he played basketball at Ole Miss University. Was a pretty good basketball player. Not in college, not somebody that was going to do big things in the NBA or whatever like that. But in business, he was very successful. This is a man that at one point owned 115, yes, 115 fast food franchises, from Taco Bell's to KFC's to Pizza Hut, you name it. This man had 115 franchises. He sold 104 of those franchises in separate transactions to the tune of $200 million. And he got good money because not only is he an alum of Ole Miss, former athlete, alumnus, he's a booster. Been known to be a booster for years. So boosters are not people like you or I. Boosters are people that got cash. So when you look at it from that end, why would they get into a situation where they're fleecing this young man out of money? Not saying it's not possible. It's not possible. Money is the root of all evil. We know that. But I'm just saying this is people who print money. Now, the wife, she took advantage of all the publicity of the Blind Side, became a motivational speaker, was doing a lot of different things. So when I think of her, she benefited off what happened with the Blind Side, which was people gotta understand, man, based on true story. They gotta jazz that thing up for Hollywood. They made Michael Oher seem dumb, aloof, not knowing the game of football. A little sweet story with the little kid teaching them how to play football, and the mother telling them about the Blind Side and Orange Taylor and that whole story. You gotta remember, man, this is a movie. And if I remember correctly, don't hold me to it, believe it was a Disney movie.
Yeah, and literally, it won an Oscar. And Dwayne, for those my audience that might not be into sports as much as me and you, the blind side is the left tackle. If you're a left tackle in football, because of how great Lawrence Taylor was, and you consider the blind side of that quarterback, which is if he's a right-handed quarterback, he's going to be on the left side. They usually make the second or third most amount of money on each NFL team. So let me ask you,
but
Wayne.
Understand this. Michael Oher in high school was a 3-sport athlete. Before he fully moved in with the Tuohy family, it was already known he was going to be a high school All-American. It was already known that he was going to go to any major college that he wanted. It was also already known that he had the potential to go to the NFL, which eventually he did. Did he have a long career in the NFL? No, he did not. But he's a 1%er, man. He made it. He made it to the NFL. So whether you think he was not good, sorry, whatever, he's a 1%er. He made it to the NFL. So one thing that I've been trying to research since this whole thing came out, allegedly, because I'm just going to use allegedly, because we don't know. He signed these papers when he was 18. So if you're 18, you can't be adopted. You're considered an adult. Now, we know an 18-year-old ain't fully an adult, but in society, you're considered an adult. So if you listen to Sean Tuohy, the dad, he's saying because Michael was going to live with him and his wife and the family, because he's a booster of Ole Miss, they would have to sign that paperwork, or else the NCAA would look at it as an improper benefit if he wound up at Ole Miss University.
And what would have happened with Ole Miss?
They would have been, potentially it would have been a probation situation later on down the line once it was investigated. But the NCAA is the biggest joke in the world when it comes to rules. If I buy a kid a hamburger, if I see a kid and I go to a college campus and I see an athlete and he's hungry and I buy him a hamburger, something to eat, that's considered a violation. Because would I have done it for any regular student, right? So when you think about this whole story with Michael Oher, I asked the question, if Michael Oher was Michael Oher, non-athlete, just walking around the streets down there in Memphis, would the Tuohys have taken him in to their home? Or did they take him in because of his athletic prowess? Another question you have to ask yourself. And, I won't say schools, I don't want to say players or whatever. But from where I'm from, you have public schools, you have non-public schools. In the last 25 years, I would say, give or take, 20 to 25 years, it became very prevalent for these Catholic, non-public schools to recruit. Now, the governing body in the state will tell you that recruiting is not allowed. I was a youth football coach. I seen recruiting with my own eyes. Okay? Recruiting happens. So I tell this story to say, when you get one of these athletes from quote unquote the inner city, and you take them to these Catholic schools that are in these suburbs, a lot of times what the school will say to that parent of this accomplished athlete is, how much of this tuition can you afford? We'll do some financial aid. We'll try to do stuff with the books. But don't worry about it, because we got sponsored families. Not only do these sponsored families help offset the cost of these tuitions to the non-Catholic schools, but also if you are going a far enough distance, a child will stay with these sponsored families Monday through Friday and go home on the weekends so that they don't have to go back and forth after practice. Some do it. Some of these kids are getting up 4 o'clock in the morning, getting themselves together, taking buses and trains to get to these schools that may be 20 to 30 miles from where they actually live.
Now,
So,
let me ask you, bro. I'm not asking you because I don't know personally because we talk every day, but just for the audience sake, when you say you're a youth football coach, you've been in youth football for over 20 years, and you bring up recruiting, most people may not understand that this stuff is going on as early as age of what?
man, we start biting at these kids' necks and backs when they're very young. But so you can show potential as an 8, 9 year old, but they really start looking at you, these high schools or whatever. Probably like when you're 7th, 8th grade, they start keeping an eye, and you may be somebody that they want to look at. Um, it's crazy to me, but it's true that the public school in the town that you live in feel like they gotta recruit you so that they don't lose you to the non-publics. And the interesting thing, man, I don't knock any family for making a decision that's right for them. But I will tell you this, and I've seen it. If you good, they gonna find you. Whether you're in a small enrolled public school, to the highest enrollment public school, to the Catholic leagues. If you're good in this era of IG, TikTok, Thread, they'll find you. But a lot of parents are sold on that dream that if you go to these non-publics, I can only speak for the area that I live in, can't speak for other areas, other states. But if you go to these schools, you got a better chance of making it to a Power 5. Power 5 is Pac 12, Big 12, Big 10, ACC, SEC. Those is the big boys. So if you go to these non-publics, the competition you're playing against, more exposure, national teams you're playing against, probably going to be on Fox or ESPN. So you do get a lot of exposures, but they also, not only are they, it's like college. Not only are they recruiting Quentin because he's a great quarterback, but they're going to recruit James as well. And you got to compete. So there's no guarantees. Sometimes I think staying at home, you know you're going to, if you're that dude, staying at home, you probably going to be on the field as a freshman or sophomore. You know what I mean? And you could do what you need to do. Whereas you go to these football, and I'm going to call it this because people may not like what I'm going to say, but you go to these high schools that are football factories because let's be honest, little Dwayne, who's a great football player, is going to come to that school and is not going to pay as much tuition as a kid that's just a regular student there. Okay? There's a school, again, I don't want to put names out there, but they decided at one point, we want to be a powerhouse in football. We got a bunch of transfers in from a lot of inner city towns. And these kids commuted up to this program in an affluent neighborhood. And boy, did they succeed. But they came with a swagger. They said they came with a slogan too. They had this swagger. They won multiple championships. But then little Johnny and Timmy's parents was like, well, wait a minute, these kids are coming up here. They're not paying as much as I'm paying. They're getting all the scholarships. My son ain't playing. He been in this town and in this school. My husband went to this school. So they started saying, hey, this ain't right. So the administrator said, okay, yeah, you're right. We'll go back to the way things used to be. We'll bring that old coach back in from the way things used to be. 4 years of losing. Last year they went back. They had 25 transfers. And now they back to being
25 transfers.
Yeah.
How much is usually on the high school football team? How many people?
I would say for it's different levels, different groups based on your enrollment. So it varies by enrollment. But if we're talking about the type of schools that I'm talking about, I would say and this is a conservative thing, I would say from 10th grade to 12th grade, you're probably looking at a roster of 60 to 70.
And for anybody that may have just joined the show, we're talking in reference to the Michael Oher situation where he's suing the Tuohy family, basically a family that has, for lack of better words, I'll use the word sponsored him to, while he was in his last couple of years of high school and then college, and then he got to the NFL. They made the movie The Blindsided. Sandra Bullock won an Oscar for this movie, and Dwayne is giving us an example of what goes on in a different state than Mississippi, but this is going on in all the sports. And I want to ask you, Dwayne, and I know we talked about it, and it's crazy because we share so much of these type of things in these athletes, and we're big sports fans, and
And let me just add, it's not just football that this is happening. It's happening in all sports. It's big business, man.
Let me ask you two questions, Wayne. And I know you told me, and I don't mind saying it on the air, when we talked about it, and I brought up the racial issue, and you was like, no, pump your brakes. It's not that. And I think a lot of times people don't look at it, and they'll look at it on the surface and say, black kid, white family. Well, this is so explain. I don't think people get how prevalent this is. This is like,
when I say pump your brakes, I just mean some of it has the racial undertones, but you'll also have. All right, so I'll say this: I live in New Jersey. State of New Jersey is where we're from. Their governing body made a decision this year that I really can't believe. Okay? So for years and years and years, they stood up on a soapbox and said there's no recruiting, even though your eyes don't lie. So this year, they come out with a thing, freshman to junior year, you could transfer without a bona fide change of address. You could transfer from one school to another one time, sort of like the NCAA free rule. So if I live in some random town, I don't mean no disrespect. If I live in Branchburg, okay, and I know that the high school there has an amazing baseball team, right? Not in Branchburg where I live, but the next town over in West Hampton, they have an amazing baseball team. And my son is an amazing baseball player. I could put in a transfer and go just for athletic advantage. That's crazy to me. You want to know why? Because there's families in West Hampton that pay taxes to this public school, but now you're allowing a kid without a bona fide address change to go to that school. Now,
all because of sports, all because of
doesn't
athletics.
mean that that school is going to accept the kid. Like, you know what I mean? They got to be accepted, but it's just a crazy precedent. But if you're a junior going into your senior year and you try to do it, you got to sit out the first 30 games. It's athletic advantage, either way you slice it. And that's the thing in New Jersey. So, like, in the state of Maryland, where I know people from there, it's a different scenario. Like, you don't have to go to the high school in your town in Maryland. If the high school in Suitland is known for a science and your kid is in the science, you can go to Suitland, even though you don't live there. I believe, don't hold me to it, but I believe it's like a 25-mile radius or something like that there. If I'm incorrect, people could correct me. But, so, it's athletic advantage in some of these situations, any way you slice it, whether you're black, white, Hispanic, of Asian descent. Now, if we're being totally honest, and you look at the numbers, high school, college, NFL, in football, and in basketball, majority are African Americans. So that's what you're dealing with. Recruiting on a college level, they're going to do whatever they have for you. So the cynic, like me, I could be cynical. Sean Tuohy and his wife both went to Ole Miss. Athlete and cheerleader. Michael Oher, who could have went anywhere he wanted to in the country for football, went to Ole Miss. Is that by accident? So now, again, Sean Tuohy said, the NCAA said to him, look, if he ain't a part of your family, and he wound up going to Ole Miss, and you are Ole Miss booster, it's not going to look right. So, Sean Tuohy is alleging that he told Michael, these are not adoption papers because we can't adopt you. You're 18. These are paperwork to show that you're a part of our family. So if you do go to Ole Miss, we're not telling you to go there. But if you do go to Ole Miss, there's nothing that could come from it with you getting suspended or the university getting suspended or what have you. So it's an intriguing story because these people are millionaires already. Big homes, big cars. That was even depicted in the movie. So if we believe it's true, and they say the four of them, the husband and wife and the two kids depicted in the movie, split proceeds and all got $14,000 apiece, because they saying that's all they got. It's $14,000 apiece. What the hell was Michael's piece of the pie? Where his $14,000 at?
And I will say that the Tuohys have came out and said that Michael asked them for a large amount of money. Allegedly, according to various reports, it was $15 million. And we'll see in court because it was a conservatory. We're basically, like you said, whatever money Michael made, they basically are the managers of his money.
They own his name, image, and likeness. So when you think about it, Michael Oher is now, 37 years old?
Yes.
So you're talking almost 20 years ago that this paperwork is signed. He went to the NFL. How did he not capitalize off his name, image, and likeness for almost 20 years, and he's an NFL player? So it's some parts of this story that I just don't get. But make no mistake about it. As Quentin said earlier, amateur sports is just a name. You got high school kids now getting NILs in high school. You want to explain to them what an NIL is?
Well, basically, name, image, and likeness. Let's just say, for example, Michael Oher was on Madden. According to the Players Association, all the players get a percentage from that Madden game. So basically, the Tuohy family every year on video games, jersey sales, anything that the Players Association has to do with, where Michael Oher's name is put on something, the Tuohy family got his money. This is to be honest with you, it is Dwayne, it's a very interesting case. It's something that really could establish precedent going forward for how a lot of these sponsorships, boosterships, whatever we want to call it, because this is so prevalent. This is common. Let's get it together, folks. Like, this is not what happened is not new, but the lawsuit and the conservatorship is a problem.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Wayne.
The only difference when you say this is not common, the only reason this is getting buzz is this Disney movie. that they sold us on. You
Yeah,
understand what I'm saying?
a movie where Michael always said he had a problem with how they did it.
He hated it.
He
Let's be
hated it.
honest.
He hated it.
The way it was
He
depicted.
he said he would walk in locker rooms and people would think that he couldn't read a playbook because he couldn't read. He said that he was in plays in the 6th grade, doing plays himself. Michael Oher was a very, very intelligent young man. And I think, Dwayne, for lack of better words, maybe he should have took that up with Hollywood.
Well, that's my point. Like, when this movie was being created, and it's loosely based on your life, how did you not have say to be like, yo, this is not how I was? But again, these Hollywood movies can get away with stuff because the very key verbiage based on a true story. They got to jizz these things up to sell tickets. And hell, they did a great job. Sandra Bullock won an award for it.
Her only Oscar.
Only Oscar. And this thing's still making money. And unfortunately, we live in a world where people feel like, well, if it's on the big screen, it got to be true.
Yeah.
Got a lot of gullible people out here.
Yeah. And that is funny you said that, because that's one of the things that we do on the other channel is we do our reviews, and we rather do, and I explained this to you before, how I feel about, I don't want to talk about true stuff, because true stuff on TV is never going to be the factual stuff, and it's always going to be dealing with people that are hurt. And like you said, a lot of people get their information, they get their knowledge off of movies, and they don't even realize, like, this is loosely based off of stuff. So what are you
but see, this thing could go in so many different angles. I've been in rooms where coaches, college coaches, because their job is to get you there, they're like used car salesmen. They gonna tell you what everything that's good, and they ain't gonna give you none of what you're gonna go through. And I have advised people in the past that trust me to be in on some of these conversations. I even offered services to people not looking to get paid because I just want these kids to get what they need to get. They all lied to these kids. Oh, you're gonna start right away. What? Yes. True freshman. Once you sign on that dotted line. And here's another myth that I want to debunk right now. When you sign and when you commit to go to these universities, you're not guaranteed to be there for 4 or 5 years. At the end of every season, coach will call you in. Dwayne, how you feel about the program? You want to continue for another year in the program? Yeah, coach, I love it here. I like what we're doing. I love the direction. Okay, let's sign for this next year. Same coach will call in Timmy and be like, hey, Timmy, man, you're not performing like we thought you was going to. We're going to take your scholarship. We'll help you land somewhere else, but we're going to take your scholarship. These things are year to year, folks. A lot of people think when their kids sign those letter of commits, it's for 5 years, 4 or 5 years.
So if I come to you and be like, my son got a full scholarship, 4-year scholarship, is no such thing.
Sounds nice. And it could happen if he performs.
But you on a year-to-year contract.
And then what happens when the coach gets fired? That new coach comes in, looks at film and says, man, you don't fit what I'm going to be doing here. You know, we're going to release you from that scholarship. We'll try to help you find somewhere else.
Wow.
It's business, man.
Dwayne, that's the key word you said. And I wanted the audience to understand that you've always given me great advice. And you know, I don't mean to toot your horn as my friend and my brother, but when it comes to
I'm no expert, folks.
Pop Warner football, youth football in general, definitely in the state of New Jersey, I know that you have a great pulse on what's going on with what we consider amateurism and what and you didn't even touch on, and maybe another time we'll get into it with this audience where the sneaker contracts, the sneaker companies get involved. You didn't even get into that, and I appreciate that,
Listen,
bro.
I think it's crazy, right? And I don't want to name names. Big time college coach left one situation, went to another. Has two sons that play. I'm not hating. Love him. Love what he's doing. It's not just him, but you got these kids that are signing these name, image, and likeness deals, and they driving around in Maybachs, Range Rovers. But listen, I'm all for these kids getting what they got to get. But guess what? The 84th player on that roster still riding a bike or walking. This is big business.
And that's the caveat, is that you said I could be riding around with a Maybach because I got an NIL deal, but the minute you, as an assistant coach, buy me a cheeseburger, the eligibility is messed up.
It's messed up.
Amazing.
You can go out here and get a Maybach. You could do Pepsi commercials in the town, but if your coach buy you a cheeseburger, it's a violation.
Well, Wayne,
NCAA is something, but we made this about the Michael Oher thing, and it's gonna be interesting. Like, listen, we all know our whole lives, right? There's three sides to every story. There's the Tuohy side, there's Michael Oher side, and then there's the truth. Now, I saw a lot of people in an outrage. Look at these white people took advantage of this. I can see how it looks that way. I really can. But where was Michael Oher's people? Sure, he was living with the Tuohys, but there was nobody else that was like, "Hey, Mike, I don't know, man. You signing paperwork?" Like,
and it wasn't. And Dwayne, I need you to explain that, because it was nothing like that. He was homeless like this movie made it out to be.
I mean, he bounced around. Like, he didn't always have the most solid situation. But it's just weird to me. And, like, it's obvious Michael Oher loved these people. It's obvious. Like, his senior day at Ole Miss, where, he got his framed jersey and all that, the Tuohys was there. So, I don't know. Y'all. I understand the overtones, taking care of the poor black kid, bringing them into this beautiful house. They had kindness, but their kindness came with a price, man. They took advantage. How far did they take advantage? Did Michael Oher benefit?
I mean, and the way, that's the thing, is that if we play devil's advocate, I'll say they didn't take advantage because they got the bread. They had the bread from the door. He hasn't made as much as they're worth. He hasn't made that in his NFL career.
If you're asking me, it's just me. This is just the views of Dwayne Morris. It's not the views of Let's Talk 2. It's not the views of Quentin Ford. It's my views. You're asking me. Tuohy's brought him in because they wanted him to go to Ole Miss. He's a booster. They both graduated from there. And the tutor they got graduated from Ole Miss. Ole Miss was all in the mix of this. And so the cynic in me is like, what was Ole Miss doing for the Tuohys? Nothing, because he's a booster? Or did maybe the daughter went to school for free? Maybe the youngest son, they didn't have to worry about it. But how much is the tuition for a man that made $200 million? Again, $200 million, and selling off 104 of his 115 franchises. Do the math. He still got 11 left. And he made $200 million in the sale. So Was it about taking money from Michael Oher? That's my question. Was it about fleecing this young man? Money is the root of all evil, but damn, if you ain't making it off of $200 million.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. And Michael didn't make more than $100 million in his NFL career. I didn't even have to Google that to know that.
Now he's suing. Did like what did he do with his NFL money? See, this is what I don't understand about the paperwork. Wouldn't they be the ones that was handling his finances? And
even Dwayne, and even with that, if they were the conservators, the NFLPA, basically the checks would have been going to them.
Well, this is what I don't understand. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I know what I feel I know about high school athletics and how they are. Listen to me again, folks. I'm going to get close. There are sponsor families all over this country to put kids in better situations than where they are. It's just the truth. It's a cold, cold business, man.
So I'm going to ask you before we close out, can this go a whole bunch of different places? Where is this going to go?
Let me tell you something. It's just like anything. This is going to have a news cycle shelf life of 2 weeks, and it's just going to proceed business as normal. I'm telling you, the only reason this is a big story is because of the movie. It's the only reason it's a big story. Man, Booster's been greasing the palms of athletes. Hey, man, you had a good game today. So you got an interception. And all of a sudden, the kid got an envelope, and he got money. Now, I love that these kids got the name, image, and likeness. When you think back, Johnny Manziel just did an amazing Untold on him on one of the streaming services. And I remember I read a book called The Fab Five, and it was about Michigan. And then back then, athletes was limited on how much they could eat. They got meal stipends. So you look at a person like Chris Webber, and I could talk about it because he talked about it in the book. So Chris Webber, 6'9", monster. That little stipend was enough to get him like 6 chicken nuggets, some fries, and a soda. That ain't gonna solve that man's appetite. But he walks across campus, and at the student store, Nike Michigan uniforms with the number 4 on them, selling for $95 a pop. Well, who's number 4? It's Chris Webber. Don't got his name on the back. So the university is benefiting. So then people say, yeah, but he getting a free education. Maybe Chris Webber. But as I stated before, we got to be careful with it. They getting a free education when their scholarships can be pulled year to year.
And that's why they say you got to jump on it when it's hot.
You better.
Well, Wayne, appreciate you, bro. Glad you wanted to jump on and talk about it. Hopefully, some people in the audience, people watching the show, can get some benefit and some understanding. And like you said, this will be gone in a couple of weeks, and we'll hear more from it when something gets decided, or it'll be non-disclosure, and we'll hear nothing else about it ever again. With that, appreciate everybody that watched the show. Remember, the best way to support is to support, like, share, subscribe. Take care and have a great night.